Can I ask you something that might surprise you? What if the one thing you've been doing every single day to keep your legs strong, the thing your doctor encouraged, the thing you've built your whole routine around, is actually not enough? What if walking, the exercise everyone swears by, is quietly leaving some of your most important leg muscles completely untouched? I know that sounds hard to believe. Most people over 60 are told the same thing. Walk more, stay active, keep moving. And walking is wonderful. Please don't stop. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Walking only activates a small portion of the muscles that keep you stable, upright, and safe on your feet. There are deep stabilizing muscles in your hips, thighs, and core that walking simply doesn't reach. And when those muscles quietly switch off, which happens gradually, without any obvious warning, that's when your balance starts to feel uncertain. That's when getting up from a chair feels harder than it used to. That's when the fear of falling starts creeping into your daily life. Today, I'm going to show you one simple exercise you can do right from your bed, no standing required, no equipment needed, that directly activates the muscles walking leaves behind. It takes less than 10 minutes, and the results people experience often surprise even their own doctors. Stay until the end, because what comes next could change the way you walk forever. If you want simple, doctor-approved tips to stay strong, independent, and active after 60, subscribe and turn on notifications. It only takes 2 seconds. To understand why this bed exercise works so well, we first need to talk about what happens to your legs as you get older. And I promise to keep this simple, because the science here is actually fascinating once you hear it in plain language. Starting around the age of 50, the human body begins losing muscle mass at a rate of roughly 1 to 2% per year. By the time most people reach their 70s, they may have lost 20 to 30% of the muscle they had in their prime. And here's the crucial detail that most people miss. This loss doesn't happen evenly across all your muscles. It hits the fast-twitch muscle fibers hardest, the ones responsible for quick, powerful movements like catching yourself when you slip, rising from a deep chair, or taking a quick step to the side to avoid an obstacle. Your slow twitch fibers, the ones used during gentle, steady activities like walking, tend to hold on longer. But those fast twitch fibers, the ones that literally save you from falling, those are the first to go when they aren't specifically targeted. At the same time, the nerve signals that tell your muscles to activate begin to slow down. Think of it like a phone line with too much static. The message gets through eventually, but not fast enough when you need it most. Your brain sends the signal to catch your balance, but by the time the muscles respond, you've already stumbled. Circulation also changes with age. Blood moves more slowly to the extremities, particularly the legs and feet. This means nutrients and oxygen reach your muscles less efficiently, which slows their recovery and reduces their ability to contract with strength and precision. And then there's the issue of hip flexors, the muscles that connect your lower spine and pelvis to your thigh bone. These muscles are critical for walking with a natural stride, lifting your knees properly, and keeping your pelvis stable. But in people who spend long periods sitting, whether at a desk, in a recliner, or resting in bed, these muscles become shortened and underactive. They essentially forget how to fire properly. And when your hip flexors are weak, your entire walking pattern changes. Your steps get shorter. Your risk of catching your toe on a curb or a rug goes up dramatically. Now here is where the glute bridge bed exercise comes in, and why it is so remarkably effective. A glute bridge performed lying on your back engages your glutes, your hamstrings, your hip flexors, and your deep core stabilizers all at once, in a controlled, joint-friendly position. It does not compress your knees or your spine. It requires no balance, and it directly targets the muscles that walking leaves dormant. Research published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found that glute activation during a bridge exercise was significantly higher than during level walking, meaning in a single controlled movement from your bed, you are working muscles that an entire morning walk might never fully reach. When those muscles get stronger, something wonderful happens. Your stride lengthens, your posture improves, your ability to rise from chairs becomes easier, your balance becomes more reliable, and that quiet fear of falling, the one that so many seniors carry with them but rarely talk about, begins to ease. Let me tell you about Margaret Collins, a 74-year-old retired school teacher from Ohio. Margaret came to see me about 18 months ago with a concern she'd been putting off for longer than she should have. She told me she'd been walking her neighborhood every morning for years, 40 minutes, rain or shine, never missed a day. She was proud of her routine, but lately something had changed. Getting up from her favorite armchair had become a two-hand, lean forward, hold your breath kind of effort. The stairs to her second floor felt steeper than they used to. And a few weeks before her appointment, she'd stumbled on a crack in the sidewalk. She caught herself, thankfully, but the fear she felt in that moment stayed with her. She told me, "I do everything right. I walk every day. Why are my legs getting weaker?" Margaret was doing nothing wrong. She was doing exactly what she'd been told. But what she didn't know, and what I gently explained to her, was that her walks were primarily strengthening her slow-twitch muscle fibers and her calves. The deeper stabilizing muscles of her hips and the back of her thighs, her glutes and hamstrings, were barely engaged. They had quietly been switching off for years, and her daily walk was inadvertently masking it. I introduced her to the glute bridge exercise. She was skeptical at first. Lying on her bed and lifting her hips didn't seem like it could possibly compare to a brisk walk. But she trusted the process and committed to 2 sets each morning before getting out of bed. Within 3 weeks, she noticed she was rising from her armchair without reaching for the armrests. By 6 weeks, she tackled her stairs with a confidence she hadn't felt in years. At her 3-month follow-up, her balance score on a standard clinical assessment had improved by 41%. Her walking stride, measured during a timed walk test, had lengthened noticeably. But what moved me most was what she said at the end of that appointment. She looked at me and said, "I feel like I got a piece of myself back that I didn't even realize I'd lost." That's what targeted exercise can do. Not replacing walking, never that, but filling in the gaps that walking simply cannot reach. Now I want to address something directly because I hear this from patients all the time, and I think it deserves an honest, science-based response. The belief is this: walking is all you need to keep your legs strong as you age. This is one of the most widespread and well-meaning myths in senior health, and I understand where it comes from. Walking is accessible, it's social, it's gentle, and it truly does provide meaningful cardiovascular and mood benefits. But when it comes to preventing the specific kind of leg weakness that leads to falls and loss of independence, walking alone is not sufficient. And the research is clear on this. A landmark study published in the Archives of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation followed adults over 65 for 2 years. They found that those who walked regularly but did not perform any targeted lower body strengthening exercises experienced continued decline in hip abductor strength, the muscles on the outer hip that stabilize you with every step. Those who added targeted hip and glute exercises maintained or improved those muscles significantly. Another study from the Journal of Gerontology found that the gluteus maximus, your largest and most powerful muscle, showed significantly lower activation in older adults during walking compared to younger adults, even when walking speed was matched. This means as we age, our bodies become less efficient at recruiting the very muscles we think we're using during a walk. Here is the honest truth: inactivity can hide behind activity. A person can walk a mile every day and still have critically weak hip stabilizers. They can feel busy and mobile and engaged, and still be quietly losing the muscular foundation that protects them from falling. That is not a failure of effort. It is a gap in information, and today you're filling that gap. Let me walk you through the glute bridge exercise step by step, exactly as I would explain it to a patient in my office. Start by lying flat on your back in bed. A medium-firm mattress works best. If your bed is very soft, you can do this on a yoga mat on the floor instead, but the bed works well for most people. Bend both knees so your feet are flat on the surface, hip width apart. Your heels should be about 12 to 15 inches away from your hips, close enough that you can feel a gentle stretch in the front of your thighs. Let your arms rest comfortably at your sides, palms facing down. This gives you a little stability. Now, before you lift anything, I want you to take a slow breath in. As you exhale, gently engage your abdominal muscles, just a soft tightening, not a crunch. This protects your lower back throughout the movement. On your next exhale, press through both heels and slowly lift your hips off the bed. You're aiming to create a straight line from your knees, down through your hips to your shoulders. At the top of the movement, gently squeeze your glutes. Those are the muscles of your buttocks, and hold for 2 to 3 full seconds. You should feel the work in the backs of your thighs and your buttocks, not in your lower back. If you feel it in your back, your hips may be rising too high. Lower them slightly until the sensation moves to the back of your legs. Then slowly lower your hips back down, vertebra by vertebra, as if you're gently setting your spine back onto the surface one piece at a time. That's one repetition. Begin with 8 to 10 repetitions per set. Rest for 60 seconds between sets. Do 2 sets to start. As you grow stronger over 1 to 2 weeks, build toward 3 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions. If at any point you feel sharp pain in your knees, hips, or back, stop and consult your doctor before continuing. Perform this exercise every morning before you get out of bed. The beauty of this timing is that your muscles are warmed by sleep and your joints have had a full night of rest. It takes less than 10 minutes. A few common mistakes to avoid. Do not let your knees fall inward. Keep them pointing straight forward throughout the movement. Do not hold your breath and do not rush. The slow, controlled lowering phase is just as important as the lift because that's where much of the muscle building work actually happens. One final note. As this becomes comfortable, you can add a progression by lifting one foot off the surface while keeping the other foot planted and performing the bridge on one leg. This single leg variation dramatically increases the challenge to your hip stabilizers and is excellent for balance training. Tell me in the comments how many times per week you currently exercise your legs. I read every comment, and your answer helps me know what to cover next. I also want to share the story of Robert Nguyen, a 71-year-old retired engineer who came to see me under very different circumstances than Margaret. Robert hadn't fallen, not yet, but his wife had asked him to come in because she'd noticed something that worried her. Robert had started hesitating at the top of the stairs before descending. He'd begun holding the wall when walking through dark rooms at night, and when they walked together in the park, he'd started taking shorter, shuffling steps that were nothing like the confident stride he'd had 10 years ago. Robert's challenge wasn't weakness from inactivity, he was actually quite active. He swam twice a week, walked the golf course on weekends, and did light yard work regularly. His mistake was a different one. All of his activities loaded his muscles from the front. His quadriceps and his calves worked constantly. But the posterior chain, the muscles of the back of his body, the hamstrings, the glutes, the lower back stabilizers, were almost completely neglected. This imbalance is more common than most people realize, and it's one of the hidden causes of balance decline in active seniors. When the muscles on the front and back of your legs are out of balance, your body compensates by slightly forward tilting your pelvis. This changes your center of gravity. It shortens your stride. It makes your balance less reliable in the dark or on uneven surfaces. For Robert, the glute bridge was the missing piece. Within 4 weeks of adding it to his mornings, his wife noticed he was walking differently, more upright, more confident. His stair hesitation all but disappeared by week 6. At his follow-up appointment, he scored significantly better on a single-leg balance test than he had 3 months earlier. He's a quiet man, not given to long speeches, but when I asked him how he felt, he looked at me simply and said, "I feel steady again." That steadiness, that feeling of trusting your own body, is exactly what stronger, more balanced legs can give you back. Now that you understand the exercise, let me share how to build it into a complete daily routine that supports your leg strength, your balance, and your overall mobility. In the morning, before you even sit up, perform your 2 to 3 sets of glute bridges while lying in bed. Follow this with 5 slow ankle circles in each direction, then 10 gentle knee lifts while still lying flat, just raising each knee toward your chest, one at a time. These activate circulation before you stand and dramatically reduce that stiff, unsteady feeling many people experience first thing in the morning. When you do stand up from bed, stand at the bedside for a full 5 seconds before walking anywhere. Simply finding your balance in a safe, supported environment before your first steps of the day is a small habit that significantly reduces morning fall risk. During the midday hours, if you feel yourself getting stiff from sitting, set a gentle reminder to stand up and take a short walk, even just to the kitchen and back, every 60 to 90 minutes. While standing, practice rising on your toes 10 times and then lowering back down slowly. This calf raise motion keeps ankle strength active and supports the circulation in your lower legs. If you need more support during standing exercises, keep one hand on the back of a sturdy chair. Never feel that you need to prove anything to yourself by removing support before you're ready. In the evening before bed, spend 3 to 5 minutes doing gentle seated stretches. Sit in a firm chair and straighten each leg, holding for 20 seconds. Then cross one ankle over the opposite knee in a figure 4 stretch to gently open your hip. These movements maintain the flexibility that lets your muscles work through their full range. For your overall walking goal, aim for 20 to 30 minutes most days. But think of walking as your cardiovascular activity and your glute bridges as your strength work. They serve different purposes and you need both. On days when weather or fatigue make walking difficult, your bed exercises can still be done regardless. Hydration matters more than most people realize. Muscle cramps, fatigue, and even balance difficulties can be linked to mild dehydration. Aim for 6 to 8 glasses of water daily and begin with a glass first thing each morning. If you feel any hip or knee stiffness before beginning the glute bridge, place a small pillow under your knees for the first few repetitions to allow the joints to warm up gradually. Before I close, I want to speak briefly to those of you managing specific health conditions because your safety matters above everything else. If you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, the glute bridge is generally safe and may even help improve bone density through the gentle load it places on the hip. However, if you've had a hip fracture or hip replacement, please check with your surgeon before beginning this exercise, as movement restrictions may apply. If you live with arthritis in your knees or hips, move slowly and never push through sharp joint pain. A mild ache is normal when reactivating muscles. Sharp or sudden pain is not and is your body's signal to stop. If you take blood pressure medications, particularly beta blockers or diuretics, be aware that rising from a lying position to sitting can sometimes cause lightheadedness. Always transition slowly from lying to sitting to standing, especially after exercise. Talk to your personal doctor before starting any new exercise program. This exercise is generally gentle, but your doctor should know about any changes to your activity routine. You know your body. Work within your comfort zone and build gradually. We've covered a great deal today, and I want to bring it back to what matters most, you and the life you want to keep living. Leg weakness, fear of falling, the frustration of feeling your independence quietly slipping. These are real experiences that so many people carry in silence. They don't talk about it at the dinner table. They don't mention it to friends. They just quietly start avoiding stairs, or stop walking to the mailbox, or give up the hobby they loved because they no longer trust their legs to carry them there safely. You don't have to accept that as the inevitable story of aging, because it isn't. I think of Margaret, who said, "I feel like I got a piece of myself back that I didn't even realize I'd lost." That piece she recovered wasn't just muscle strength. It was confidence. It was freedom. It was the ability to move through her own home without fear. And I think of Robert, who simply said, "I feel steady again." 2 words, but they hold everything. Your legs want to be strong. Your body is capable of more than you think. It simply needs the right movement. One exercise every morning. 10 minutes in bed before your day begins. That is all it takes to start closing the gap that walking alone leaves behind. If this video helped you today, please subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Hit the like button to let others know this information is out there. Share it with someone you love who might need it. And leave me a comment below. I read every single one, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Take care of those legs. They are what carry you toward everything that matters. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. Always consult your personal doctor before starting any exercise program or making changes to your health routine.